Hi, my name's Phil. I like to crack politics. And earlier this week, Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, accidentally voted against the Conservative whip on a vote on the agriculture bill. But in this video, I want to ask if it really was accidental. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news in politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So I'm not at this point seeking to get any conspiracy theories out there. This is really more of a sort of thought exercise as to would there be any possible motivation for Sunak getting this wrong when it seems inexplicable that anyone would have done so. Basically, we've had a few weeks of Parliament carrying out some of its duties with the new coronavirus social distancing, which means a maximum of 50 MPs in the House of Commons debating chamber. So others have had to access proceedings remotely from home. But this week we were also dabbling in remote voting, as Parliament is a legislative body and its main purpose is the passing of legislation, and also social distancing isn't going to go away anytime soon, so we imagine. And the government are of course also keen to knacker our farming industry and create extra health hazards as if the pandemic wasn't bad enough. And so a change to the agriculture bill was put forward for a vote this week by the government. The reason it is so contentious is because, amongst other things, it lays the groundwork for allowing the American agricultural products that are currently not deemed to be high enough standard in this country to enter the UK market once we leave the EU proper. And one of the essential elements of dismantling our standards demanded by the US government indeed. The government denies this, of course, but then the government deny a lot of things. The bottom line is, if the government insists that food standards are to be maintained, why are they starting to unpick them from British law? So, the bill came up for a vote and Rishi Sunak voted against it. Now, he wasn't the only Conservative MP to vote against it, but most of the others tended to do so deliberately. There was actually a Conservative rebellion, a very small one. They don't necessarily care about the health implications. Don't go mad here. But they may care that it will wipe out a lot of British farmers. I haven't checked who the other Tory rebels were, but I'm going to guess that probably they'll all be from agricultural constituencies. But Sunak voted with the rebels. But he claims it was accidental. Of course, it has to be accidental. He is a minister. You are not allowed to vote against the government as a minister. You would then have to resign. Now, the bill did pass anyway. It sort of didn't make any difference. And he did immediately inform the chief whip of his error and apologised. All very funny, no harm done. But again, I just have to ask myself, is there a set of circumstances that might get you to think, did he really do it accidentally? So consider the following. Voting as an MP is much easier than voting as a citizen. As a citizen, we have lots and lots of choices and sometimes multiple votes on the same day. MPs have two choices. They either support or oppose a bill or motion. It's yay or nay. And if that wasn't easy enough, they don't even have to read the details and decide which way they should be going. The chief whip, which is a position in the parliamentary party for the Conservatives in this particular case, has one job, really. Well, they have a few jobs, but their main job is to make sure that all of the Conservative MPs vote the way the government wants them to vote. They tell every single MP in the party which way to vote on every single vote that's taking place that day. Normally, this takes the form of standing in the lobby at Westminster and telling MPs which door to walk through, because you cast your votes not with pieces of paper in Westminster, by walking through the right door, and the whips are there to make sure you go through the right one. Now, on this occasion, because there was no door to go through, it was electronic voting, they presumably emailed the way MPs were supposed to vote. Now, there were a few other MPs who apparently made the same mistake. And I'm not sure whether this makes me more or less suspicious. The other thing to consider is that Rishi Sunak is considered something of an intellect, certainly by the standards of the Conservative cabinet. Not the usual empty-headed, vacuous dribbler that Johnson has decided to fill his government with. No, Sunak seems to have a brain. I'm not sure who the other MPs were, as I say, that accidentally voted against it. And wouldn't necessarily know how bright they were anyway if they don't have much of a public profile. But I would ask this. Why, when faced with such a simple task, you know, the only member of the government considered intelligent would make such a mess of it? And it's not even like there were loads and loads of votes and he was busy and he was like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. Oh crap, that was the wrong one. And, you know, this was only the second remote vote to have taken place in Parliament during this lockdown. You know, he had two options for the vote and surely will have had a message from the Whip's office as to which one to press. Hardly rocket science. But then you would say, okay, so let's go along with that. What motivation, Phil, can there possibly be for deliberately making such a mistake? Is Sunak really against the changes to the agriculture bill and wanted to accidentally on purpose sink it? No, even, you know, had the rebel numbers been great enough to put it in serious jeopardy, Labour did oppose it, by the way, Johnson would have just changed it anyway later on. He wouldn't have been able to do it in the same session of Parliament, but in the next session of Parliament, he would have just put the thing through again and it would have just gone through then. And there's no, I don't see that there's any massive rush to have got it through right now. It's just, you know, convenient for him to get through as much legislation as possible without proper scrutiny. I think it has more to do with the concept of remote voting itself. Now, the fact is that there are a fair few traditionalists in Parliament, mostly Conservatives, but, you know, you get them everywhere. And they really don't like the concept. Bear in mind, Jacob Rees-Mogg, a man who lives in the 19th century, has said it's appalling that MPs are doing anything remotely. He wants all 650, not that the 650 would take their seats in Parliament, but most of them would. He wants them all jam-packed into the House of Commons again. You know, he's a real opponent of modernity, but there are others like him. It's a little bit like the people working from home right now. Some of those people would have in the past asked their bosses if they could work from home, or at least a few days a week, save on travel and things like that. And to save time, you know, sometimes even a relatively short distance in rush hour traffic can take a long time. If you can work from home and if it's perfectly possible to work efficiently from home, at least a few days a week, that can save you an enormous amount of time, to say nothing of the potential cost saved for childcare, if that's a factor. And a lot of bosses in the past, you know, would have gone along with that, but some of them will have gone, no, it's not feasible, it wouldn't work. Well, those people are now working from home. They're showing that it's feasible. And I will imagine that after this is over and people are properly going back to work, and of course the people who can work perfectly efficiently from home will be the last to go back anyway. But when they do, some of them will be very pleased to go back to work. But some of them, I'm sure, will be going back to those bosses that said it wasn't feasible and says, I seem to have been working at home pretty well for the last year. How do you think it's gone? Oh, very well. You've done very well. Yeah, I thought that too. So I was thinking maybe we should extend this little arrangement. What do you think? Can't really say it's not feasible at that point, can you? And the same may be said of remote voting. Having to go to London all the time is a pain in the arse for most MPs. I'm not even talking about the obvious ones, you know, Scottish and Northern Irish MPs. London is hardly central, even in England, much less the UK as a whole. If you take the UK as a whole, it's right down there, right at the bottom. You know, there have been calls for remote voting for a while, and traditionalists have always shouted it down. But if, driven by necessity, the system shows itself to work, and all of the objections unfounded, then I can imagine a lot of MPs asking, why can't this be adopted as the new norm? And I just wonder. And that's all it is. Like I say, I don't want to start any theories here, but I just wonder if maybe some MPs are seeding doubt deliberately into the system to counter any calls to adopt remote voting for the future, especially as Conservative MPs do tend to be clustered more around London than the MPs of other parties. But that was just a thought that occurred to me. Maybe it's all innocent. Maybe Sunak just isn't as bright as people are making him out to be. But there it is. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.